On the surface, my life looked pretty close to perfect. The kind of life people glance at and think, she's got it all. A stable marriage, a beautiful home, a good life. And honestly, I believed that too. David and I, we had worked hard for years. Joint investments, shared savings, endless conversations about our future, vacations we wanted, retirement plans, even that kitchen remodel we kept putting off. We were a team. At least, that's what I thought. Lately, though, David had been busier than usual, always talking about some new business project. There were long meetings, constant phone calls, supplier trips, and me, I didn't question it. I told myself, this is what marriage is. Sometimes one carries more of the load. I mean, that's what partners do when they love each other, right? You trust. You believe you're building something together. But then, there was this voice. You know that little whisper in the back of your mind? The one you try so hard to ignore? It started creeping in. I felt him pulling away. Small things at first. Missed dinners, half-hearted conversations, vague excuses. But every time that ugly little voice showed up, I shut it down. He's stressed. He's working hard. He's doing this for us. That's what I kept telling myself, until the day everything started to unravel. It all started so innocently. I was sitting at the kitchen table, flipping through our finances, trying to map out a budget for the home renovation we'd been dreaming about for years. New cabinets, fresh paint, maybe even knocking down that awful wall between the kitchen and dining room. I was excited. It finally felt like the right time to make our home even better. But then, something caught my eye. A withdrawal. A big one. Bigger than anything we'd normally spend. I frowned. That's odd. Probably something for his business, I mumbled. But the more I scrolled, the more my stomach tightened. One transaction after another, large sums moving out. And not once, not twice. Over and over, and none of them made sense. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it's some investment. Maybe he just forgot to mention it. But no matter how hard I tried to calm that rising wave of panic, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was horribly wrong. You know that sinking sensation? Like the ground beneath you just shifts. That was me, right there, at my own kitchen table, staring at numbers that didn't add up, and suddenly, neither did my marriage. I told myself to breathe. Don't jump to conclusions, Helena. There's gotta be a reasonable explanation. But deep down, I knew. I felt it in my bones. Curiosity quickly turned into dread. My hands trembled as I opened more statements, pulling up credit card records, cross-checking transactions I had never seen before. The pattern, it was undeniable. Same vendors popping up, construction companies, material suppliers, land taxes. What the hell was David doing? We weren't building anything. At least, not that I knew of. And that's when I saw it. An invoice. Sitting right there like a slap across the face, tied to a property address I didn't recognize. I stared at it for a long time, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe it's an investment. Maybe he just forgot to tell me. But let's be real. When you've shared a life, a home, and a future with someone, they don't forget things like this. That was the moment I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to find out the truth, no matter how much it might hurt. The next morning, I woke up with this heaviness sitting on my chest. I barely slept. My mind just wouldn't shut off. The more I tried to convince myself it was all a misunderstanding, the louder that voice got. Helena, something's not right. So, I did something I never thought I'd have to do in my marriage. I started digging. I pulled up every bank statement I could find, credit card bills, loan payments, transfers, anything with our names on it, line after line, charge after charge. My fingers were shaking, but I kept going. The deeper I went, the worse it got. It wasn't just one random invoice. No. This was methodical, strategic, like a second life unfolding right under my nose. Payments to construction companies, again and again, Purchases from hardware stores, material suppliers, land tax payments, and none of it, absolutely none of it, had ever come up in a single conversation. My heart was pounding so loud it felt like it was echoing inside my skull. "What the hell is this, David?" I whispered, even though he wasn't there to hear it. And then, there it was. An invoice that practically jumped off the screen. A property address, somewhere I'd never heard of. My stomach dropped. I copied it, stared at it, trying to process what I was looking at. Maybe it's a rental, maybe it's an investment property. Maybe, but every possible excuse sounded more pathetic than the last. I sat there, frozen, until something inside me snapped. I grabbed my keys. No plan, no second guessing. I just drove. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tight they hurt. The whole way there, my mind spun in circles. Dread, panic, anger, confusion. Please, let it be nothing. Let this be something innocent. But deep down, I knew better. As I turned onto the street, my breath caught in my throat. There it was, a construction site, a house, half-built, framing up, workers moving around, trucks parked out front, and right there, like some cruel punchline, was a car I recognized. Not David's. No, hers. Her car. The woman I stupidly thought was just an acquaintance. Someone harmless. Someone irrelevant. I pulled over, far enough that no one would notice me, but close enough to see everything. My hands were trembling. My whole body felt like it was vibrating. Part rage, part disbelief. And then, like a punch straight to the gut, I saw them, David, her, smiling, laughing, walking side by side like some happy little couple. I watched as they strolled around the construction site with contractors, pointing at things, picking tiles, discussing fixtures, finalizing plans for, what? Their future? A future built with my money, my trust, my life. It wasn't just a house. It was a dream, a fresh start. But not for me, for them. And suddenly, every late night, every missed dinner, every vague excuse made perfect, sickening sense. For a moment, I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. It felt like my entire reality was collapsing right there in front of me. But then, something inside me shifted. That heartbreak, it turned ice cold. I grabbed my phone. My hands were still shaking, but I started taking photos. Every angle, every moment. Proof. Because if they thought they could destroy my life in secret, they were about to find out just how wrong they were. I don't even know how long I sat there, watching them. Every smile, every touch, every stolen glance felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. But the longer I watched, the more that pain transformed into something else, something sharper, colder, a quiet, focused kind of rage. Because this wasn't some meaningless fling. No. This was a life they were building, together. I zoomed in on my phone camera as they stood with the contractor, pointing at tile samples, arguing over countertop finishes, laughing like a couple picking out details for their dream home. Our money, our savings, our future. The words kept echoing in my head. Except, none of it was ours anymore. It was theirs. Stolen right out from under me. And the worst part? I recognized her. Of course I did. She wasn't some stranger. She was someone I'd seen before. Someone I'd smiled at. Made small talk with. Someone David had always brushed off as just a friend or an old coworker. God, how stupid I felt in that moment. How blind. But that ends now. Because watching them, documenting every second, I realized something. If they were bold enough to betray me like this, then I needed to be bold enough to make them regret it. I kept snapping photos, their hands brushing against each other, her leaning into him as they laughed, the contractor jotting down notes while they nodded like a married couple. And then, as if the universe wanted to make sure I really got the message, I caught them holding hands, right there, out in the open, no shame, no guilt, just comfort, familiarity, intimacy. It hit me like a freight train. This wasn't some fling. This wasn't some impulsive mistake. This was a full-blown, carefully crafted double life. And worse, they were building it with my money. Money David and I had saved for years. Money meant for our future, for our plans, our life. He hadn't just betrayed my heart. He'd betrayed every ounce of trust, every sacrifice, every dream we'd built together. My hands were ice cold. My fingers barely worked as I scrolled through my phone, capturing invoices, receipts, the property details. Anything that tied that house to the money flowing out of our joint accounts. This wasn't just personal anymore. This was theft. And standing there, hidden behind the wheel of my car, I made myself a silent promise. You will not ruin me. You will not win. I don't even remember driving home. My hands were on the wheel, but my mind, it was somewhere else, somewhere dark, somewhere sharp. The betrayal was suffocating, but beneath it was something stronger. A fire. A clarity I didn't know I had in me. I wasn't going to fall apart. Not this time. No. This wasn't the version of me who'd sit at home waiting, crying, begging for answers. That woman? She was gone. By the time I pulled into my driveway, the tears had dried. What replaced them was ice. A steady, deliberate focus. I backed up every single photo, every file, every document, made copies, stored them on hard drives, on the cloud, anywhere I could think of. Because if David thought I was naive, if he thought I was just going to roll over while he built a future with her using the life we built together, he was about to learn exactly who he married. And as I sat there, staring at our house, the one we were supposed to renovate, the one we were supposed to grow old in, something clicked. They stole my future, so now I'm taking back what's mine. And just like that, the fear faded, replaced by a plan, a cold, perfect plan. The very next morning, I was sitting in a lawyer's office, no hesitation, no second guessing. I laid everything out, the photos, the bank records, the invoices, the property details, watching the attorney flip through the evidence, seeing his eyebrows raise higher with every page. It was the first time in days that I actually felt in control, like I wasn't drowning anymore, like I was finally steering the ship. He didn't even sugarcoat it. Helena, this isn't just betrayal. This is financial misconduct. Misappropriation of marital assets. Those words hit differently. This wasn't just about my broken heart anymore. This was about justice, about making sure David paid for what he did. Not just emotionally, but legally. And the best part? I had every single piece of proof I needed. Before I even left that office, we started freezing assets. Quietly, strategically. I opened new accounts in my name only. Redirected funds wherever I could. Anything to make sure David couldn't bleed me dry 1 cent further. For years, I trusted him blindly. But not anymore. Now. Every move I made was precise, calculated, ruthless if it needed to be. But freezing the money, that was just the beginning. See, I didn't want this to be some quiet, behind-closed-doors divorce. Oh no. That would have been too easy for him, too convenient. David needed to feel it, to truly understand the weight of what he'd done, not just to me, but to every single person who ever believed in him. And trust me, I had the perfect opportunity lined up. David had been planning this big family dinner, a celebration for his so-called new business success. Oh, the irony. Everyone was going to be there. His parents, his siblings, our closest friends, people who'd stood beside us for years, people who thought they knew him, people who had no idea the man they admired was capable of something this vile. So, I smiled. I played along. Nodded through his fake little stories about how busy work's been and how things are finally coming together. God, the performance he put on, it was almost impressive. Almost. Because deep down, I knew. I knew exactly what was coming. I wasn't just walking into that dinner as his wife. I was walking in as the storm he never saw coming. When the night finally came, I walked into that restaurant calm, collected, dressed like I had every reason to celebrate. Smiling, hugging family members, making small talk, like nothing was wrong. David had no clue, not a single clue. He was basking in it, soaking up the praise, the congratulations, the admiration. He really thought he'd gotten away with it. That smug, hollow charm, God, I'll never forget it. When everyone was seated, when the drinks were poured and the appetizers arrived, I reached into my bag. My hands didn't even shake. One by one, I placed them on the table, glossy photos. Photos of the half-built house, of David and her, hand in hand, of them choosing tiles, picking fixtures, smiling like the happy little couple they were, funded by my life. And then, the silence. Oh, the silence. You could hear forks hit plates, glasses freeze midair. David's face went pale, that kind of pale that drains all the color from your soul. I looked him straight in the eye, and with a voice steady as stone, I said, "Here's the house David's building, not for me, for her. And with money that belongs to me." You could have heard a pin drop, and just like that, the man everyone thought they knew shattered right in front of them. The days that followed, they were a whirlwind. Lawyers, court filings, asset freezes, and honestly, I handled every single step with a kind of clarity I didn't even know I had in me. There were no more tears, no more second guessing, just focus, just power. The house, their little dream home, was seized almost immediately. Turns out, when you funnel marital funds into a secret love nest, the law has something to say about it. David? His entire world unraveled in record time. Friends distanced themselves. His family, they were horrified. I could see it in their faces. The shock, the disappointment, the disgust. This man, the one they thought was trustworthy, dependable, had turned out to be a fraud, not just as a husband, but as a person. And me? I didn't hide. I didn't cower. I stood tall through every meeting, every hearing. I stared him down as my attorney outlined, in brutal, surgical detail, every violation, every stolen dollar, every betrayal. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something powerful. I felt free. I sold the family home. Every wall, every floorboard, every memory tied to that place, gone. And you know what? It felt liberating, like shedding a skin that no longer fit. I took the money I fought for, the money I earned back, and I bought myself the most beautiful apartment I'd ever stepped foot in. Bright, open, peaceful, mine, entirely mine. And that wasn't all. For years, I'd put my own dreams on hold, supported his, carried the weight when his business ventures came first. But not anymore. I used part of that settlement to open a business of my own, something I'd always dreamed of, but never dared to do, watching it come together. Seeing my name on that paperwork, it was the sweetest kind of victory. David, meanwhile, well, let's just say the man who thought he was untouchable learned real quick what happens when you bet against the wrong woman. His reputation, in ruins, his finances, crippled, his image, shattered, and every time someone asked, "What happened to David?" I smiled, because the truth had a way of traveling fast. A year later, there I was, standing in front of my brand new home, keys in hand. A home I bought. A home built on something real. Not lies, not betrayal, but strength. Mine. I walked through the front door, listening to the echo of my footsteps on the polished floors, running my fingers along the fresh paint, breathing in the scent of a brand new beginning. And as I stood there, I realized something. I didn't just survive this. I rebuilt. Piece by piece, day by day. I took back my life. No one handed it to me. No one saved me. I did that. Me. And for the first time in, maybe forever, I wasn't someone's wife. I wasn't someone's backup plan. I wasn't someone's afterthought. I was my own damn hero. I walked out onto the balcony, coffee in hand, watching the sunset melt into the horizon. And right there, in that perfect, quiet moment, I smiled. Because this home, this life, it wasn't built on broken promises. It wasn't built on someone else's lies. It was built on freedom, on resilience, on me. And honestly, it had never looked more beautiful.